And we're back. Okay, so I, in the picture that I posted of this one, I didn't feel like my green dots were, first of all, distinguishable. These two rows were actually two colors, but they were so close together you couldn't tell. And I also felt like my green strip of paint did not have enough yellow in it to deal with this space here. So I went and mixed up another strip of yellow green, and I just put the same amount of yellow in each pot, and then added a tiny bit of green, a little bit more, all the way down, so that I've got a really pale yellow green over to a pretty dark yellow green. More green than yellow. And then I went and redotted this second row down here to use the lighter yellow green color, and I like it a lot better. So I'm going to use this strip for this space here. Now I'm thinking for this space I wanted to put like a big dot with maybe some walking the dots around, and I had already filmed this video and my battery went dead in the middle, so it didn't even keep what I had recorded. Excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. So I put a big dot, and then walked some dots with some brush strokes, but you could put a big dot with a lotus flower with some swooshes, you know, some lotus drop swooshes, if you know what I'm talking about. But I knew I was going to put brush strokes out here, and I know I'm going to put brush strokes out here, and I'm probably going to put some kind of swoop in here, so I didn't want to have nothing but swoops and swooshes. So I just did walking the dots around there. So that's what I'm going to show you again. And I think the size tool I used was a 5mm. And I'm using the darkest, let me double check this tool. Yeah, I'm using the darkest color in that yellow. I gotta blow my nose. I apologize, guys. I'm using the darkest color in my gradient for my dot. Putting it right on that center guideline. And then you can use your mic dotting tool. I'm going to use my cone to put a ring of dots around that. So again, just use your, use your creativity, your imagination to come up with ideas for how to fill these spots, these shapes. That's probably the hardest part of this, but you'll notice that now we're kind of zipping along. We're not cramming them full of stuff because, again, we want that background work to be visible. And in this style, most of the work is not so much on the dotting as it is you're investing all that time in the background and the sketching and the outlining. And then the dotting just kind of, I don't want to say it's secondary because it's certainly not, but you've already got a pretty piece before you've even started dotting. So it's almost like once you've got the background and the outlining, you can't mess it up. It's more of a situation of how detailed and intricate do you want your dotted part of your design to be. and we decided we were going to keep this simple. Okay, so I put ring of white dots, tiny dots around that. Now I'm going to go to the lightest end of that yellow-green gradient. I'm going to take the small end of my yellow tool, my yellow stylus, and I like when I walk the dots, or with any of really my work, like these dots here, I used a 3mm rod. These are small dots. I like tiny dots. I think I got used to that doing so many stones. And I just like the way they look. They look so soft and detailed when they're tiny like this. All right, so tap, tap, tap to get a bit bigger of a dot there. And then walk around. So I load up a little more paint for that first dot. And then not as much for the walking dots. And then I'm just gonna move up one shade darker. I'm gonna use the same tool, same end, because I wanna keep my dots tiny in here. Again, kind of a bigger dot on the top. And because I've got kind of a distance to go, I'm gonna dot once, and then re-dip, and then walk. Dot, dip, walk. And, you know, play with your colors, play with your gradient. Just have fun with the filling it in part. Have fun with all of it, but use your imagination on the filling it in part and have fun with it. With your colors, you can keep it really monochrome on top of the background spaces and make it more of a textured piece. I like to use some darker colors on top of my lighter background to give it that standout. I don't know if you noticed on the picture that I posted of the center so far. I really like how these swoops were dark and it kind of made like a starburst effect to it, which is what my intention had been to do. That's why I made those darker there, because I knew they would stand out that way. Really dark against the light background stands out, and then really light against the dark background, of course, also stands out. Then I got my paintbrush. I went size up thicker for the outer brush stroke, and I picked the second darkest shade in. Again, you do you. This is just how I did it. This is a bit thicker of a brush than I used over here yesterday for that outer one. And just tuck it in that triangle there. Oh, got a little close to my dot walking on that one. That wasn't the best brush stroke in the world. Stand by. If you haven't discovered these little guys, these little toothpick teeth flossers, they're little scrubbers. They're really nice for getting into tight little places like this. Up against those little dots I just walked, I just was able to get right in between them and right up against them. All right, let's try this one again. Turn my board this direction. There we go, that's better. It's always easier to do your brush strokes one direction than the other, depending on which hand is your dominant. Okay. And then I went back to my tiny little rigger brush for the second brush stroke because it's getting a little crowded in that triangle at the top, and I want the tails to be able to fit in there. So I skipped 2 colors. So I was here, I'm going down to this one now, skipping 2 shades down. Be sure you got all the water off your brush, because nothing worse than a drip of water coming down onto your brush while you're in the middle of a brush stroke. It just completely destroys it. So these are a little thinner. Now I might go in and take my cone and do something in that little bit of space there, but remember I told you, I think I already said it tonight on this video, that you want your background to show, otherwise it was kind of pointless to do all that work on it. So that's really the only place that I can see that I've got a lot of my yellow-green background popping through, so I decided to just leave that alone. Now I'm going to move up into these spaces. This one's kind of stumping me right now, so I wanted to skip over to this space here because I know what I want to do there. I like to, if I can, find a place to do it on a piece to fill in one of my shapes completely. I think it makes a really cool effect when you're looking at it from a distance, and I like to do it with a darker color. I'm kind of into my greens now, my true greens. I'm out of my yellow green and into those true greens. So I'm going to switch strips and go to my true greens. And also, I'm starting to move into this green out here, which is kind of almost, it's called phthalo green, but it's sort of like a blue. It's got a blue tint to it. So what I did was I took one of my true greens and I wanted to darken it some. This was a little bit lighter and a little bit greener. I darkened it and I added just a little bit of this green here. And I didn't want it this dark and this blue, but I added just a little bit of kind of this color over to my green to just add the slightest hint of blue to it to help us transition nicely into those blue greens, but yet still, you know, maintain our green and nice and dark. All right. So this is where you want to get your sharp tool, and we're going to just drag paint. I really like it to be as puffy as possible when I do this. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Paige's work at Soulful. I think it's Soulful Dots. When she fills in her shapes, they're always really nice and puffy. You want to add a little bit of body to your paint. So again, if you're using deco art, I would get some of that soft gel I wouldn't mess with the heavy gel by Liquitex. I can't swear by that, but I just feel like it's not going to give you what I'm talking about here. It might work. I don't know. I haven't tried it, so I guess I can't say. But if you can get some of that soft gel and you're interested in making puffier stuff, I think that with the gloss medium to the Deco Art would really make you happy. So I took my green tool because it was the biggest stylus, and I just piled quite a bit of paint on there for now, enough to spread. And I'm not going up to touch the cone line. I'm going right up to the edge of it, and I want it to be nice and clean line, not raggedy. Take your time. If you start to build up some paint on your tool so that you can't get a clean edge over here, you know, wipe it off. And just run it down that edge, following the shape. Zuzi calls these pillows. And then once you've got that, and you can see right now it's fairly puffy, but now take your green stylus again and just pile some more paint on top of that. Don't burrow down into the board, just skirt the top. And then take your pointy tool if you need to and spread it again. Don't put your tool all the way to the board. You're just skimming along the top of this paint to get out any wrinkles. If your consistency isn't right, one of two things is gonna happen. Either if it's too thin, you are not gonna get that nice raised look very easily, and you're gonna have a hard time getting really nice, probably clean lines along the edges of it. If it's too thick, when you go and move your pointy tool across to spread your paint out, you're gonna see the tool marks left behind. And so you need to thin it down a little bit. Probably if it's too thin, it could make a mess, but probably the biggest problem will be it won't be nice and puffy like that. So I just tap, tap, tap some paint off of there. I keep it in the center. Don't take it to the edge with your stylus. Just keep it going down the center. And just pile as much on as you can. If it's too thin, what can happen is, as you're doing this, you can only pile so much paint on before it collapses and runs. It won't hold as much. Ooh, that was a chunk of something. It won't hold its shape. It'll melt. All right, so now this is, like I said, an old strip that I had laying around, so it's got some chunks in it. All right, so I'm cleaning up that edge. My consistency right now is absolutely perfect for this job, and I'm going to show you in a second here what it's nice and smooth on top. It's not leaving any ugly ridges or tool marks. Hair on my stylus too. And we got a little air bubble. There we go. Pop that sucker. Okay. So when that's done all the way around, it's gonna look really pretty. And it kind of enhances that, because the design gets a little lost. And remember, the original design was this guy with these petals coming off of it. But because we are so close together with them, it kind of looks like maybe this is a design in and of itself. But by filling in that shape there, it brings it back to where it's supposed to be, where it looks like we've got a petal coming off of this main petal. Okay? So I'm gonna work now on these two. And again, I'm not sure what I would do. I would do cone work in here, but since we're not doing that, I am gonna surround it with dots, with some white dots. You can use your tools. Because I used that orange pencil to do my design, and I knew it wouldn't erase totally, and I coned my white on top of it in the center. It left my center outline looking more gold than white, which I kind of dig. Kind of like it. Shows up better, that's for sure. So you could do like a gradient of big dots to little dots through here, and start out with the yellow green and go up, and then, you know, you could dot around each of them. There's like, the sky's the limit, guys, on what you can do here. So let me think for a minute. I'm just gonna build two swishes, one bigger and one smaller, in that space there, using my tools, not using my brush stroke or my brushes. And for colors, I'm in my green strip, but I want to put a little, so I've got the yellower end of my green strip, so I'm gonna hover down there. I'm gonna go to my middle. Kind of a lime green, and I'm going to use my green tool. And I'm going to put it right there. This paint might be a little thick. Let's see. Little tiny bit thick and thin it. So. Huh? I didn't know. Oh man, I really wanted a Coke one. All right, it's fine. Okay, honey. Thank you. I'm videoing right now. You're fine. So I'm gonna follow this on the right side of this swoop. I'm gonna follow this curve. Still a little thick. You see how you can see my tool lines really prominently in that? That's because it's a little too thick. So I'm gonna thin it out some. I don't love that it swooshes next to brush strokes, and then we're gonna have brush strokes over here again, but not sure what else to put here without using my comb. Okay, and another one over here. Just set it in. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm gonna go to my lightest yellow and do the same thing, but shorter. And you'll have guidelines in these shapes that you made to make sure that you're lining up on the same spot every time. So I've got, you can't see it, but I've got a guideline circle running here, and I've got my lines, so I know that I'm putting it right in the intersecting spot of those two. So use your guidelines that are there to make sure that you're maintaining your symmetry even with placing the dot work in your shapes. And this one might need thinned too. Thin that a little bit because I'm seeing my tool marks. Just ever so slightly. So, using those guidelines to make sure it goes in the exact same height as the other one. Make sure your pointy tool doesn't have schmutz on it. And this one somehow ended up a little bit wider. I got more room here than I did over here. I'm just gonna Not really much I can do about it. Made that swoosh just a tiny bit bigger. But again, it's in that space right there, showing where our gradient on our background shifts. So I don't mind leaving that negative space there anyways. Okay, and then this space out here, I decided I wanted to just do brush strokes. You could, and I think probably I will actually, put something down the center to swoosh around instead of just straight brush strokes, or you could just do just straight brush strokes. I don't know, I've already got these swooshes here. I think I'm just gonna fill it in with brush strokes. So I'm gonna go down to my darkest color, and I'm probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I need to make them fairly plump because I've got 6 colors. If worse comes to worse, I can go get one of those yellow greens at the end if I need another swoosh, so I'm not too worried about it. So just start in the center, right on that guideline. Actually, I want to put some dots. I want to get a little more detail here before I start those brush strokes. I want to put dots around. And with a cone, you could even do like this kind of thing along that border. I could do like little arches, you know, which is probably what I would do if it was my own piece. Along that border there, make like a scallop edge, but we'll just put some dots up there. Fairly, a little bigger than micro dots this time. Go. And you could even put another cone row or outline row underneath that, which, let me go ahead and show you what I mean, because I'm going to actually do it. I'll only do it on this one, but where did my compass go? So like another border row line. Give yourself some more detail here. And then brush stroke from that. And you can use your pen to do that. Dehydrated today. All right, now we'll do our brush strokes. And now I don't have as much space to fill in because I don't have as wide to go after putting that border on there. Oh, nope. I'm just doing one with you guys. Okay. And then just down the gradient we go. Now for the second one, you could do your brush strokes curving outward like that, or curving inward like that. What I do is I put a little water on my brush first and see how my brush strokes are going to go and how I want them, because I know this last brush stroke is going to go outwards to follow this shape here. So the question is, do I want all of them doing that? Or do I want some interest? I think I'm going to do the first one going. That's my dog, has a cone on, and every time he scratches it. Sounds like a cake when you're mixing up, hand mixing something. I really can't see. My brush stroke is a little close. So I'm going around like that. I don't know if y'all can see it. So I'm cupping it. Then the next one I'll make more kind of straight probably. I'm only gonna have room for a few brush strokes here. Actually, I'm not gonna use the whole gradient. Now I'm gonna start going the other, probably only gonna have room, let me see. Yeah, I'll do one more. To make it really thin, like that. And then that last one, I'll fan out to match the shape of the design. And I'll just half it. I'm not going to take it all the way to the bottom because I don't want it to get muddy in there. If you can, take the tail all the way down, but you see I'm just sort of stopping the tail short a little bit. Okay. So that's it. From there, I would do rows of a gradient from light to dark out here, just like we did here. Or you could even do one of those interlocking swoosh borders, or whatever you wanted to do for your border. But that's the basic premise of how I do my stuff. And again, I followed Zuzi and learned all these techniques with the background and the pattern drawing from her. So I highly recommend you check her out at Hero. I've listed the link in all these videos. And let me know if I can help in any way, and I hope you give it a go, and I look forward to seeing it. All right, guys, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.